Here we are, heading out our front door on another big adventure. Our goal is to get to Miami, Florida, so we can board the Carnival Horizon for a 6-day cruise. But we live in California, and getting from the West Coast over to the East Coast is half the fun. The closest airport to us is the San Luis Obispo County Regional Airport. They opened this nice new terminal back in 2017, and it has a really cool feature. This outdoor area is after the security checkpoint, so we spent about a half hour out here enjoying the sunshine as we waited for boarding of our flight to begin. And with that new terminal in 2017, our little local airport got something it had never had before, an actual jet bridge, which makes boarding much nicer when it's not a nice sunny day. But it's still just a small town airport at heart. They even let me walk out onto the middle of the main runway to shoot some video with my GoPro. You can't do that at LAX. No, I'm just kidding. I shot this out the window from my seat as we were taxiing onto the runway for takeoff. I was just joking because as I was looking at that section of the video, it kind of looked like I was walking on the runway with my camera, and the thought of that made me laugh. This flight, the first of two for us today, was from San Luis Obispo to Dallas, Texas. We were on an Embraer ERJ-175 aircraft, and that's a nice little jet airplane, way better than the little propeller aircraft that used to serve this airport just a few years earlier. This sure is a nice view as we took off from San Luis Obispo. Kellen is always considerate and lets me have the window seat so I can shoot video like this. We had a wetter than normal rainy season in San Luis Obispo this year. You can see a lot of green in the hills still, even though it was the last week of May. We had about 130% of normal rainfall this year. Nice views there of some of the local peaks that were created by volcanic activity here 20 million years ago. There are 9 of those little volcanic peaks in our area. The locals call them the 9 Sisters. This was a nice little treat. Right out my window, I had a beautiful view of Avila Bay and Port San Luis. And that long stretch of beach there on the left is Pismo Beach and Grover Beach, where we live. It was great to have a good view of it at the beginning of our flight. This little Embraer jet has 12 first-class seats up front, and that's where we were. To be honest, I find that a cocktail makes a long day of flying a little easier to handle, and they even served us a little meal there in first class. It was a little more than 3 hours to fly across California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas to get to DFW, where American Airlines has one of their big hubs, where we could transfer over to a much larger aircraft for the second leg of our trip to Miami. I had a good laugh in the DFW airport at this sign, very tongue-in-cheek, offering those quote-unquote healthy snacks like peanut M&Ms. We had to get over to a different terminal for our second flight, so we took the Sky Ride, which goes between terminals. And I always make all the travel arrangements. Kellen just rolls with whatever I plan for us. On our first flight, I was pulling a little prank on her. We were talking about how nice our first-class seats were on that first flight, and I apologized to Kellen and told her that I just wasn't able to get us into good seats on the second flight. I mentioned it a couple of times during that first flight, and I think as we boarded the second flight, her expectations were a little low. Take a look at her face when she realized that I had arranged for us to be in business class seats for the flight to Miami. We each had our own little pod, I guess would be the best descriptive word, with a nice screen for watching movies and seats that could recline all the way back and lie flat if you wanted them to. The sun was just about to set as we taxied for takeoff there at DFW. This was a Boeing 777 aircraft. I'm pretty sure we've never flown on a 777 before, My favorite airliner is the 787 Dreamliner, but I'll tell you what, if you can't get me on a Dreamliner, the 777 will do for me just fine. Let's take a look at our takeoff from DFW. I got to see a great movie during this flight, Felicity Jones, starring in On the Basis of Sex, the story of the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg long before she became a justice on the Supreme Court. It's an amazing story of her time in law school and her family life, and one really big case that she took on that was an important part of striking down many of the gender-based laws that denied equal rights to women back in those days. Between the movie and the cocktails, it was a pretty great flight, and before we knew it, we were making our approach to the airport in Miami. We took a lift from the airport and got a ride on the East Coast's famous I-95 freeway to take us downtown to our hotel. We usually stay at the Holiday Inn when we're in Miami, but they were all booked up, so this time I thought we'd give the famous Intercontinental Hotel a try. It's a really nice, modern hotel right at the edge of Miami Bay. And from our suite on the 31st floor, we had a crazy great view of Miami Bay and the Port of Miami. Look at that sunrise. Wow. And I had a lot of fun shooting time-lapse videos out the window of our suite. I got really lucky and happened to start one just as the 4 cruise ships that were in port that day all headed out to sea. You can see the Carnival Sensation heading down the channel there and making her way out to sea. Then, after that, a larger Carnival ship heads out. It's the Carnival Conquest. And here, if you look really carefully on the right side of the screen, you can see Royal Caribbean's Symphony of the Seas sail away. And the big finale was the MSC Seaside doing her sail away. If you've watched my cruise videos on YouTube, you may know that the MSC Seaside and I have an interesting history. Well, that's the story of my pre-cruise activities during this vacation. In my next video, I will tell you all about our cruise on the Carnival Horizon, and you'll find out whether or not I was able to get a ride in the Carnival Blimp. Spoiler alert, no, they didn't let me ride on the blimp. I just mentioned it so that I had an excuse to use this cool video clip of the blimp flying over the Carnival Horizon. I'm Jim Zim. Thanks for watching.